Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Locker Room Podcast.
A great weekend of college football. Oh, wow. I can't wait. I'm so excited. But before we get to that, introducing my host would be today here on ESPN Radio. I am Kirk Morrison, 8-year NFL veteran and ESPN college football broadcaster, along with Geoff Schwartz, our 8-year NFL veteran for offensive guard. And I guess you can call him a man of who has a nice Twitter following and is not afraid to speak his mind. Also, we got Danny Graves, our 11-year MLB veteran, 2-time All-Star. And, fellas, before we even get into it, I'm just telling you now, I hope you guys are ready. I hope you guys are strapped in because I'm still on overload from what I saw this weekend in college football. And I'll start with you, Danny. Are you a big college football fan? I know you played baseball, but, man, college football opening weekend, what does that do for you?
Well, yes, I am a college football fan, more an NFL football fan, but I love college. I went to Miami, the U, yes, and they're finally ranked in the top 25 now, so I'm even more excited that they got started yesterday. This is such a great time for a lot of baseball players, especially the ones that are not in pennant races, because this is all you care about now.
All you care about is football.
Yeah.
Geoff Schwartz, I know you're a football guy and just a football dude, man. But this weekend, though, college football week 1 and so many great games so far, which was really, I guess, led up to last night in the game between Florida State and Alabama. Florida State did not win that football game. It was Alabama 24-7 in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Just your take on the first true opening day of college football last night, Geoff Schwartz.
I love it. So many games. You don't even know what TV to put on, what channel they're on. It's the first time of the year I go search all those extra channels on DirecTV. You find the Big Ten Network to watch Josh Allen yesterday. You find all the ESPN networks. You get everything lined up. I love it. I mean, NFL opening weekend is coming up this weekend. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't feel the same as college football opening weekend. And I just love the energy, the passion. These college football players are excited to get out there. And then you get a game like last night where you get Florida State, Alabama, the highest-ranked matchup on opening weekend, and it was really a treat for all us college football fans.
Yeah, it was a big treat for everybody, and I'm excited to get into it. That's why right now it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. It's Straight Talk. I think last night it really starts with what we saw in Atlanta last night. Atlanta, to me, showed me that it was a game in which that we got two of the best early on, and we don't get a chance to see that too often, Geoff. Like, teams don't start and have those type of games early on. It wasn't. You just haven't seen it before.
No, you haven't. Except Alabama seems to always do this. This is like the one team who decides to play these neutral field games. And, neutral field is loose. They played in Atlanta. It was a lot of Alabama fans were there. But I think it's great for college football. It starts the weekend off on a fabulous note. Everyone's tuning in, right? If you had Alabama play, a directional school in Florida State do the same, the weekend's just not as big. You get a national TV game. Everyone's tuning in. They want to see Alabama and Florida State, two elite programs. Nick Saban now, I believe, is 11-0 against his former assistants. And the games aren't even close either. And Alabama did what they always do. They play great on special teams. They miss field goals. They play suffocating defense. And they just do enough on offense. And that's always been their thing. And they did again last night.
Danny, see, when college football, and you mentioned the NFL as well, Geoff, but Danny, like baseball, because I got to lean on you because you're my resident baseball player, okay? Because, the opening day in baseball, to me, is one of the great things, I think, in American sports. When you think about, the pageantry, it's opening day. I mean, when you have 162 games, the most important one usually is the one in the beginning because everybody comes. You want to see the new team, the new players, the uniforms, the smell of the grass and everything. Mm-hmm. So what does opening day feel like in baseball?
Well, it's exactly that. Like, this is the day that most stadiums are going to be sold out, and probably the only day out of the 81 home games that you're sold out. But everybody wants to come and see the new blood. Who's new on the team? How's this team going to be this year? And it's really the only time that they announce the starters and the reserves, throughout the whole season. And I think for non-starters, like me being a relief pitcher most of my career, that's the only time I ever got to go stand on the line. And I thought it was the coolest thing to hear my name announced and either get booed or cheered going out and stand on the line. And, Cincinnati was huge. The oldest baseball team in history. They had a parade every opening day, and it was such a huge thing for the city. And really, there's nothing like opening day. You know that this is the time that – one, you actually start getting your salary. You start getting paid because you don't get paid during spring training. So this is when your salary starts, but this is also when you strap it on and say, thank God spring training's over.
That's when the big bucks start. You listen to The Locker Room here on ESPN Radio on the ESPN app. Give us a call as well, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Just reacting to college football week 1. And this show is interactive as well. You can reach me at Kirk Morrison on Twitter, at Geoff Schwartz, and at DGravy32. That's D Gravy on Twitter.com. But there were some other games too yesterday, fellas. And I know, look, the big one was what we're talking about, the Florida State versus Alabama. But man, you saw some other big games throughout the day. You saw, the first look at, schools like USC, who beat Western Michigan 49-31 yesterday. Penn State had a big win. Oklahoma, and another game that I got a chance to watch, actually waiting for an airplane because I was calling the Michigan State versus Bowling Green. But luckily I had the ESPN app and I pulled it up. I know that's a plug right there, but the ESPN app helped me out tremendously yesterday, fella. When you're watching Michigan versus Florida, and Jeff, you went to UCLA, so you understand this. There's rival games that are built in, but there's teams with brands. And I think this is where college football this weekend, I want to see more of it in the future. But when you see those brand name teams go against other brand name teams, like you put that, that school symbol up, and you like, okay, I know what that is. I recognize that. So when I saw that block M and that Gator go up there, that's Michigan, that's Florida. I know what that looks like. And so watching that game yesterday, if you don't get excited about college football without, seeing those two teams, you got to be pumped up for it. So just watching those, like, I get excited because I know that college football has started. I know where college football is going, and now I'm going to be glued to the television every single Saturday. Is that how you see it?
What excites me about a Michigan, a Florida, an Alabama, a lot of these great teams is they actually play defense, and they're physical, and they're not, and I'm an offensive guy. I like the spread offense. I did like the spread offense. I'll take it back. I did. I don't like watching it anymore. It's so far from anything else that they're running in the NFL. I like these games where you have Michigan and Florida who are going to play defense, who are going to run some pro-style offense, who will run the ball physically. So I like watching it. I think it's great for college football to have these teams sort of move back into that arena. And the Big Ten is going to be good this year. Wisconsin struggled a little bit early against Utah State, but finished out well. Michigan's good. Ohio State is good. Right. Penn State, Barkley is amazing, and there's a lot of talent at the top of that league. It might be the best in college football right now.
But Danny, you went to the U. You're a University of Miami guy. And Mark Richt in year 2. I mean, what are you hearing from the people down in Miami? Because I know there's a sense of pride no matter what sport you played at Miami. Mm-hmm. Everybody's always talking about the U because I think the football team is really what put that university on the map. So when you see them where they are now, a win over Bethune-Cookman yesterday, 41-13, what's been the sense in year 2 for Mark Richt?
Well, I think coming in last year, the whole fan base and the whole school was kind of just basically saying, okay, we have a great coach now coming from Georgia. He did a lot of great things, a former player here. Now we're going to give him some leeway because it's his first year and he's kind of rebuilding, so to speak. Year 2, Mark Richt, you better get it done, and he's going to get it done. And I think that's what the consensus feeling is, that he has total control of getting these guys to play. And the excitement as a Miami Hurricane fan, to me, is off the charts. It's more now than I've seen it in quite some time because they haven't really been very good as of late. But, Mark Richt, I think that was such a huge sign for Miami last year. I love the fact that he's here. I love the fact that they played Bethune-Cookman to start the season, just to kind of get this new quarterback, get his feet wet a little bit.
It's okay, Danny. Call it a cupcake. It's okay.
It's all right. It is. It is. And guys, I'm telling you, I'll admit it. It's a cupcake, and I love the fact that it's a cupcake. But when I was in school there, we opened up with Bethune-Cookman too, and this is back in the day when Miami was good.
Right.
Michael Barrow, Jesse Armstead, Darren Smith, all the Bermuda Triangle. Well, we still opened up with Bethune-Cookman, but the students loved going to that game because we just wanted to see Bethune-Cookman's band at halftime because they were legit. They were so awesome. But halftime usually scores about 30-0, and everybody left. So, but yeah, I love the cupcake games.
Did you see the gold chain on the sideline?
I did.
Yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. See, there were some things yesterday in college football that we got to discuss.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
We're here just talking about college football week 1, and so much that was going on that I was trying to keep a level head. I was calling them Bowling Green at Michigan State game yesterday, but there was like so many other games that were going on. We talked about the Florida and Michigan game. Florida State, took on Alabama, and everybody else's school took place. I'm talking to you, Geoff, off air a little bit. You went to Oregon, so Oregon took on. I don't know who they play yesterday. Like Southern Utah,
the Southern Utah Thunderbirds.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Like Danny, this is the weekend that you start to also use your Google search engine when you try to figure out where some of these schools are. Every directional school known to man all of a sudden plays. You're like, wait, where's that school at again?
And didn't even know they had a football team.
Yeah, didn't even know. You find out a lot in week 1, but it doesn't even end. Actually, it doesn't end last night. I mean, we still have some more matchups today. Texas A&M taking on UCLA. We got that game, and then also on ESPN, I think ABC as well tonight. West Virginia versus Virginia Tech. So the football keeps going on, but there's always these stories that you get a chance to see throughout the day. A guy who you didn't know about too much, and all of a sudden he makes a play. I think the case was on Thursday where Ohio State started a true freshman running back in J.K. Dobbins, and all of a sudden he rushes for over 175 yards, and now he's a household name. They're like, wait, that kid from Ohio State, he's going to be a star. So those are the things that I had a chance to see. And yesterday I was watching the Miami game versus Bethune-Cookman. And I forgot who it was, but a guy made a play, interception. And Danny, he's going to the sideline, and all of a sudden they bring out this big giant chain, gold chain, and wrapped it around his neck. And I immediately thought one thing. First of all, I hope it was fake because that looked like it cost a lot of money. But the second thing, it really got me thinking about some of the things that we did, fellas, as players, that you kind of had fun with, and you did it within the locker room or you did it within a group, that to celebrate big plays. I mean, I'll go quickly on this one because I remember, in my linebacker room when I was with the Oakland Raiders, my first 5 years in the NFL, we had a thing that, hey, anytime a big play, you know what, you get a bottle of Cristal. That was the thing. So you get an interception, bottle of Cristal. So everybody's excited you get an interception, but the whole time I'm over here doing the popping the bottle because I know I got a bottle of champagne coming. You know what I mean? Now, Danny, I don't know how you did it in Major League Baseball because you guys just, especially the relievers, the pitchers, you guys are like your own little group. But what were like some of the things that you did to kind of tell a guy, hey, man, good job, or the incentive for going out and even doing your job?
Well, see, baseball to me it's a little bit different because you can't get too excited. You can't praise a guy for hitting a home run to walk off. Right. I mean, we kind of jumped on each other and threw stuff all over each other and got in the clubhouse. You throw beer on each other.
Hold on, Danny. Hold on. I'm here in Los Angeles. Dodgers are here. The last couple years, every time someone hit a home run, they brought out a darn bubble machine. Okay.
Yes, right. It's different. It's totally different now. And they act like they're taking selfies of each other at home plate when they hit homers. I remember Prince Fielder. He had a walk off, and the whole team came out and stood right around home plate. And he went and slid, and they all fell down like he was bowling, and there were a bunch of bowling pins. So there's so many different things that go on now. Just when I was playing, it was almost a sin to do that. Like, you weren't allowed to do that. You had to play the game the right way, not show anybody up. And and I'm okay with the way that they do things these days because the game has changed. The personnel in the game has changed. There's a lot more flair, and I'm okay with that. And I think I'm okay with that because I went to the U where there was all that swag,
Yes.
And, that's how we were brought up. I remember Ron Frazier, the late, great Ron Frazier, was my head coach my freshman year, and he would tell guys, if you hit a home run, I want you to Cadillac it around the bases. Take your time going around the bases. Yep. So, that's kind of how I was brought up, and I learned that way. So, I don't mind guys having the celebrations and, the gold chain yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people aren't happy with that. I actually loved it.
No, you got to love that because we're talking about youth sports. These are college kids. And I'm telling you, that gold chain, just to wear that on the sideline, it lets everybody know I made a play. But I'm telling you, I know that stuff is, it's infectious, dude. Because now every player on that team wants to wear that chain and have that little 5 minutes of fame on the sideline. To let everybody looks at me and say, I'm the man, that you want to go out and make another play. And, Jeff, I don't know if it's a little bit different in the offensive line room because you guys had your own rules, especially in the NFL and college. I know it was like pancaking a guy, just knocking a guy over. That guys would put money into a little pot, and anytime you had a nice physical block and you knocked a guy to the ground, not trying to injure a guy by no means, but I had a guy who would always just do a cash register sign, just like cha-ching.
We find each other for bad plays. We never really gave money out for good plays. I will tell you, on one team in the offensive line room,
yes,
we had a pot every week, and we would choose the first score of the game. So we choose the play that we would score first. And if we won the game, we got the money. So, you choose whatever you want. Choose a goal line play. You choose a red zone pass, a red zone run. So one week I chose special teams as a score.
Okay.
Oh, or defense. I think it was defense actually for a score.
Yes.
And it had been about 4 or 5 weeks, so the pot had grown pretty well. And we picked the ball off, ran it back to the house for the first score, and I'm on the sidelines cheering about possibly winning money or more than the fact that we just got 7 points, and we actually won the game, so I did win the pot. But as offensive linemen, look, it'd be great to get a chain after doing our job, but our mentality really is just do our job. A pancake is awesome, and of course we love them, but I was too tired to celebrate.
To go celebrate.
I'm a very good, I have a great video. I'm a very, very good Tiger Woods fist pumper. I'm a good fist pumper, high five. But, it's gone to the point as well. This is kind of disappointing a little bit is that, we used to go celebrate with our teammates, our running backs, our wide receivers,
right,
our tight ends when they score a touchdown. Now it's all about the dancing. There's no point in even going down to celebrate. I just go right to the 15-yard line and get ready for the PAT because your teammates don't want to celebrate with you anymore. They want to dance.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You got to go out there and earn their respect from the guys in the locker room.
This is The Locker Room Podcast.
The big news topic, obviously, for the last month or so has been Ezekiel Elliott. And first of all is, would he be suspended or will he not be suspended? Well, we saw that the NFL came down with a 6-game suspension for Ezekiel Elliott for what they felt conduct detrimental to the league. An investigation that dated back over a year into a domestic incident. With that being said, there was an appeal by Ezekiel Elliott, which was handed down a couple weeks ago and it was heard by the NFL. Now, recently, a decision has not been made on whether to go back from that appeal, but as of right now, the NFLPA has filed a lawsuit as far as a stay for Ezekiel Elliott to still be eligible to play while they sort this matter out, kind of where we are right now. It has been known that Ezekiel Elliott is still participating in meetings with the Dallas Cowboys. He is on their roster right now. He is not on an exempt suspension list or anything like that. He is on the Cowboys roster as he prepares to play in a Week 1 matchup versus the New York Giants. A lot to get into here, a lot to dive into. I know Dallas Cowboy fans, they want to stay into this. They want to know, will our guy, and a lot of fantasy implications as well on this serious topic as well. But Jeff Schwartz, I'll start with you. With the Ezekiel Elliott matter, where do you come down on it? Because, I mean, you're a former player as well, so obviously you have some pro player, but then there's also some sides in which did he deserve to be suspended?
All right, so this is very complicated, and I've made this case on this program before. I've made it on Twitter, really a lot of places. I don't think the NFL should be in the independent investigation business. Right. I think you could have said, look, Zeke, you've been accused of these certain things. Your conduct has been detrimental to you, to the Cowboys, to the NFL. We're suspending you for that reason. You know, the more and more you look at this case, you look at the appeal process, they're going to go to court now. There's been documents that have been released. The NFL did not do a thorough investigation. And that's a problem. It makes the NFL look bad again. You know, Bountygate, Star Caps, Deflategate, all these situations where the NFL goes to court. And, yes, they end up winning in the end because we gave him the power to do so. Right. But it doesn't look good for the NFL. And Zeke's going to take this through the court system. He's not going to win, I don't think. You know, he might win on a procedure issue, which is what they're trying to get on. You know, they're not trying to really get his appeal reduced based on really the power of Goodell. They're doing it on a procedure. And I think they'll have a stay at least long enough for him to play in week 1. And further than that, I don't know if we'll know. But I just wish this thing would wrap up. This happened in July of 2016. He played his whole rookie season. Now you're going to go to court. If it's like Deflategate, it might take a year to get settled in court. And now you might suspend a guy in 2018 for something that happened in 2016.
Yeah, before we get to you, Danny, the big, I guess, news over the last couple of days that came out was what people are considered the bombshell evidence for Ezekiel Elliott and the NFLPA, who helped, file this lawsuit to go into the courts, was the testimony from NFL Director of Investigations, Kia Roberts, who recommended that Ezekiel Elliott not be suspended. But that was not heard by Roger Goodell, some have said. And that is where we're at right now, where someone is saying, hey, he should have not been suspended. And now the NFL is saying they didn't even want to hear from her. They wanted their own suspension handed down to Ezekiel Elliott. And Danny Graves, when you just see all of this, and I know this is like a football issue, but when you look at it from a baseball perspective, and you see the way this is handling, are you more excited the way that your union handles things, or just totally different? Because I feel like the baseball players union, more united, has more of a voice, and you don't have matters like this. Or is this something that the NFL has to handle because it has, I guess only 16 games. It's more of a revenue-driven sport than baseball, and not as much, I would think, only 16 games in an NFL season, whereas 162, where if you spend a guy for 40 games, I still got 2 quarters of the season left.
Right. Yes, I do believe we have an amazing players union. Our association is wonderful. They do everything they can for the players and players only. And there's a lot of each team has a couple representatives that bring issues to the table to the union and get it worked out with Major League Baseball. And I think the communication is great in that way. I can't speak on the NFL union because I don't know much about it. But
I got you.
This situation here, Kirk, to me, it's not just a football or baseball situation. This is a life situation. This is something that's happening to this guy's life. And you mentioned it. The key thing, in my opinion, is this Kia Roberts, the NFL's Director of Investigations, says that he shouldn't be disciplined for this because of the credibility of the accuser. Right. Why is she the Director of Investigations if you're not going to listen to her? You know what I'm saying? This is like, you might as well go get somebody off the street and say, go interview the accuser and see what she says. Because you have somebody with this title, she's obviously there doing this for the NFL, and they don't want to hear any of it. So to me, it's a debacle. And like Jeff said, just wish this would be done. Figure it out. This happened 2 years ago. Figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah, but that's the thing about it. I really felt that this, at the end of the day, when I saw the suspension for 6 games, that to me was the NFL coming down hard because of what in the past, whether it was Josh Brown from a year ago, the kicker for the New York Giants, or the Ray Rice incident a couple years previous to that. The NFL says, hey, we'll come down hard. We'll take them, the the media whirlwind, and then we can always pull back later on. But I didn't see it that way. I look at this as Ezekiel Elliott, and look, I am pro player. I've always been pro player because I was one. But there comes a point in time where Ezekiel Elliott had to be sat down. And the only way you can sit a guy down is do what? You have to suspend him. I believe that the suspension was more about the culmination of many events, the accumulation of different events. And they tried to weigh it heavily on, the domestic incident from a year ago. I don't believe that. I felt that it was all of the things. And finally, you just try to find it to say, okay, we're going to justify it by really leaning heavily on our year-long plus investigation on this domestic incident. That's why I didn't necessarily understand why they went so hard at that and just say, look, there's been repeat offenses and things. Yeah, a pattern of behavior to the conduct policy that we just don't adhere to, and we feel that a suspension of 4 or 5 games is that. But I think the NFL does not want to have egg on their face again. They've had it before. They're like, look, we don't want to sit around and not be hard, and then all of a sudden more news comes out, more stories, more things come out, and we look like we didn't do a good enough job. Now, to what we're talking about off air, Jeff, if they've done a year-long suspension, they should have turned over every rock, looked under every nook and cranny, and there should be nothing left. But I think for right now, this is going to be a battle between the NFL and the NFLPA. Ezekiel Elliott. We saw it before with Tom Brady last year, and at the end of the day, the NFL still won. And at the end of the day, I think it's the same thing's going to happen here. They can put a stay where Ezekiel Elliott may play this year. But it'll be that cast, that'd be that gray cloud just hanging over the Cowboys all season long, because at some point the NFL they end up winning all out because of the power that the Players Association has given to the commissioner.
Well, you're totally right on the last part. I mean, they're going to win this. They're going to win this case. I agree with the part about you can just say, as Roger Goodell and the NFL say, look, the pattern of conduct is not appropriate for this league. You're being suspended. But when you do a year-long investigation, I would expect that everything is investigated, and then they're going to appeal. They're going to go to court, and that everything that you've done will be open in the public. And so, knowing that, I would think that the NFL would want to do a great job of investigating, and they end up not doing a great job most of the time. So this is the problem I have with why they're in the investigation business. If you're going to do it, you better be really good at it, because it's going to look even worse if you don't. And this is going to drag on all season. We're going to talk about this every week. He's going to play on Sunday Night Football. That Chris Collinsworth is going to mention it. He's going to play the next week on Fox. Troy Aikman's going to mention it. Like, it's going to be on and on and on. And I'm with Danny. They need to come to some resolution. Let Zeke Elliott take his suspension or not, and move on.
Yeah, you want the story to hurry up. Let's speed up the process here. Will he be suspended? Will he not? We just want to know so we can move on, and we start to focus on, postseason baseball, postseason, the beginning of the football season. I just don't like the story because I guess it just lingers too much. But at the same time, the NFL is saying, look, there's the shield, the conduct detrimental to the shield, the conduct policy. They feel Ezekiel Elliott has, done or is tarnishing that shield.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Joining us now on our celebrity hotline, he is our celebrity. He's a Locker Room contributor and Astros analyst, Geoff Blum, joining the program. Jeff, I don't even know where to start, man. You talk about a week to remember. Just tell me what this week has been like for not just you, the family, even the organization.
Good to be on with you guys, and it's been interesting. I was actually on the Astros in 2008 when Hurricane Ike hit, and we were shipped off to Milwaukee, and that was a little bit different, just in the sense that it really didn't impact humanity the way that Hurricane Harvey has. So it's been tough because we went on a 3-day road trip and proceeded to find out over that weekend that, the most devastating storm in the history of the U.S. hits our hometown. So it was a lot of downloading weather apps. It was a lot of watching terrible things on TV, and it was a lot of hopelessness for a lot of these guys who had their families still back in Houston. And The uncertainty, I think, is probably the hardest thing. And you guys know, as being professional athletes, that routine is a part of what we do, and it's part of what makes us successful. But when all of a sudden you get something like this that's tragic, and then the uncertainty of having to where we're going to play and if we're going to play, then it just chaos ensued. But it's good to be back, and there are parts of Houston that are as bad as it looked on TV, but thankfully my family is good, and a lot of other guys are in good shape.
Blummer, Danny Graves here. Glad that you guys are okay, your family's okay. But tell me a little bit about your visit to the convention center yesterday. I know quite a few of you guys went there to see some of the victims in the aftermath of the Hurricane Harvey. Tell me what that was like for you personally.
It was good in the sense that it was great to get out and see the people, but it was also amazing in the sense that they turned the GRB Convention Center, which is literally a block away from Minute Maid Park, they turned it into a city, an indoor city. We walked through there yesterday, and the community was great. They've got support groups throughout. There was actually a line of volunteers waiting to get orientation and come in and help out. We got to play with the kids. They have an area set up to where these kids can play indoor soccer. They can hang out with some of the animals that are in for, being sheltered. And, you walk down the hallway, and there's a salon in there with a bunch of stylists giving haircuts to the local, evacuees that are in there. The mayor's office and all their personnel are doing laps throughout the convention center, making sure that everybody has the appropriate needs that need to be met. And then we got over to a section where we were actually helping out, unpacking a bunch of supplies and things like that. And it was basically a Walmart inside the GRB, and they were bringing families through, and whatever they needed, from socks to baby formula to underwear and towels, they were able to hand it out to them. It was amazing to see just not only the unity of the people, but the effort these people were putting out to help these evacuees.
You guys finally got to play some baseball last night with a doubleheader. What did it feel like to be back playing in Houston?
It felt great. I know it's one thing, and we got to applaud the Mets. The Mets accommodating the Astros and the ability to take that day off on Friday was huge, because that gave these guys an opportunity to get in their cars, try and find a way home, see if there was any damage to their house, hang out with their families, assess what is actually going on here in Houston. So that was huge for them. But to show up and have what fans that could get here, you really rally around these guys. It meant a lot to these guys to really, they know that it's going to be hard for them to give back, but they know in giving back by playing the game, and sometimes players can be a little bit of a relief from the reality of what's going on. And they really took that upon themselves and took that responsibility by the horns and did a great job yesterday. It was a lot of fun to watch them go out and play, and every guy to a man, every time a run scored, they were hitting that patch on their chest that said Houston strong. So it was pretty emotional to be back here in Houston.
AT&T Sportsnet Astros analyst Geoff Blum joining the locker room here. Kirk Morrison, Jeff Schwartz, and Danny Graves. And Jeff, what does this do for the team, though? I mean, here's a team in first place, and the AL West, and you have something like this happen. And look, you've already gotten through the dog days of summer, but when you're looking for something, and usually guys find that rallying cry or something that kind of keeps you going, is this kind of like that moment that it puts a lot in perspective that really drew this team together a little bit more as they head into postseason play, you think?
No, I completely do. We know that there's a couple of guys coming off the DL, and Lance McCullers Jr. and Carlos Correa, but I think that this is really something that took their minds off of how bad August was.
Yes.
A tragedy like this, all of a sudden, it puts things in perspective, and you're like, okay, we're not in such a bad spot. We've got a double-digit lead in the West, and these guys are going to push through. And you guys know recently, with a lot of the news going on, the Astros organization, not only did they step up as far as donations and volunteering a lot of relief efforts, they got a couple of acquisitions that I think have really spiked the encouragement in that clubhouse.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about, Blummer. I got to hear. I can't even imagine the excitement, because I was so excited. I was blowing up Twitter saying, please, Astros, give Justin Verlander all day long the other day. And next thing you know, they got him at the last minute, and I'm jumping up screaming in my bed because I thought it was so exciting for this organization. So tell me, as a part of the organization, what was that like?
Well, I mean, we've played on good teams in the past, and we know that, sometimes knowing how good you are, one more piece might put you over the top. And having all of us played and understanding that when you begin a season, the ultimate goal is to win the World Series or win the championship and be considered the best team in the sport, you might need a couple pieces along the way. And I think the Astros understood that they were a very good baseball team. But like you said, I mean, there was excitement at the trade deadline and the possibility of having a guy like Justin Verlander, and then it fell through. The month of August happened. The hurricane happened. It was just a lot of wrongs that were happening around this team and really opened the door for them to be a little bit demoralized or let down. And then all of a sudden, man, that August 31st, there were a lot of rumors starting back up, like you said, Danny, with everything on Twitter and the excitement. And then it happened. And we couldn't believe it happened. I know that the team is excited about it. The buzz is real. And the presence that Justin Verlander is going to bring to this clubhouse and to this rotation is going to be incredible. So, yeah, we're equally as excited. I got to temper it a little bit so nobody thinks I'm a complete homer, but it's pretty good.
And anything interesting about how the Astros convinced Verlander to waive his no-trade clause?
You know what? To Justin's credit, I know that he was waiting to see what the Chicago Cubs were able to do as far as match the price or convince him to go that way. But I'm not sure. I know that, there's going to be stories coming out of maybe a couple of phone calls, that were made between teammates or, I mean, it might get to the point where an owner called somebody and said, hey, Justin, we got to do this. I'm not sure if anybody's agent called Kate Upton's agent and said, hey, Houston's a great place, but, whatever it took. I'm sure we'll hear some stories coming out, but I know that there were some things going on behind the scenes that really sold Justin in coming here. And think about I think he's talked to a couple people because he was actually concerned about the situation coming into the city. Is it in shambles? Is it not? How's the stadium and that kind of thing? But I'm glad that whatever was said, and it's done.
Like you said, a big bright spot, and for bringing a lot of people, get a little bit of excitement down there in Houston, regardless of what has been going on. And to mention again, families of Astros players, coaches, personnel out collecting donations and goods for the Houston Food Bank today. Remember the hashtag Houston Strong. Appreciate the time, Geoff.
No, it's always great being on with you guys. Have a good rest of the show. Yeah,
that was AT&T Sportsnet Astros analyst and our locker room contributor. And don't forget World Series hero Geoff Blum joining the locker room here on ESPN Radio.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You got to go out there and earn that respect from the guys in the locker room.
This is The Locker Room Podcast.
Week 1 college football. I'm still excited yesterday just from watching all the big games, and finally we get just a chance to kind of see the new stories, the new faces, the new coaches, and a lot of teams that we don't know much about, not a lot of returning seniors or things like that. So when you get your first time to actually watch them, you're like, oh, okay, so that's what that team looks like. That's what that team looks like. Oh, okay, I get it now. But yesterday, just looking through the college football slate, I think that it was capped by the nightcap last night where we watched Florida State take on Alabama. Florida State loses to Alabama 24-7. Florida versus Michigan. Michigan wins that one 33-17. But there was also some other games and some notable debuts, I would say. And one was the debut of Texas head coach Tom Herman. One might say that a lot of people were excited about the Tom Herman hire, former Houston head coach, and he comes over to Texas and takes over a program that has a lot of potential. They have a quarterback already in place, and a lot of people felt that this was going to be the year that Texas gets back. They're a preseason top 25 team. But yesterday, they gave up what I consider we call it a 50 burger. Anytime you give up 50 points or more, it is what they call a 50 burger. And for Danny Graves, I know you're a baseball guy, but me and Geoff knows that if you give up 50 points in a football game, 50 burgers, they don't taste good. They're not good. And yesterday, the Texas Longhorns lost to the Maryland Terrapins 51-41. Here's a little bit of Tom Herman after the game.
I told our guys to never get used to this feeling, but that if we all thought that we were going to come in here and in 9 months sprinkle some fairy dust on this team and think that we've arrived, then we're wrong. And the only way we know how to fix things is to work harder.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Tom Herman post-game last night. And I think this is what happens in college football. I think it happens in sports in general, that sometimes you get so excited about a hire or about a change or a position that everybody hypes up. And I tried not to do this, fellas, but it's so hard as an athlete that when people start to tell you things, you know what, you start to believe it a little bit. Oh, man, Coach Herman coming in, you guys are going to be great on offense, and there's just so much excitement. The boosters and the people around the program, everybody's slapping five. Oh, we got our coach. And you start to buy in that you guys are better than what you really are, and you really haven't proved anything yet. And so, Danny, in baseball, has there been a situation where, and we were talking Justin Verlander earlier and just some other stuff going on around baseball, but have you ever had that sort of situation in which you bring in a guy to a team, not necessarily a manager, but maybe even a player, and all of a sudden you get this invincible kind of armor around you, like you're better than what you think that you are, and then all of a sudden you get out there and realize, wait, we still got to go out there and prove it. Just because we have this guy doesn't mean that, people are going to lay down for us.
Right. And just to speak about Texas just for a second, they are going to be better because they scored 41 points, but I'm not trying to drive a wedge between you two right now, being offense and defensive players.
Right.
But isn't this when the offense says, let's go, defense, help us out? We're scoring 41, you're giving up 51. I know it's a team game, but, this is what drives me crazy on the outside. So I'll leave you guys to think about that. But as far as baseball.
Hey, first of all, Danny, before I start, outside of a couple teams in college, they don't play defense in college football. Just to let you know, they don't play any defense. So, go ahead.
Right, it's amazing to me. It's amazing that happens. But so with baseball, I was part of that. In 1999, we won 96 games with the Reds, and we had a one-game playoff with the Mets. We were tied after 162 games, so we had the one-game playoff to see who won the wild card. So the very next year, or the offseason, we trade for Ken Griffey Jr., one of the greatest players in the history of baseball, right? So he's coming to Cincinnati in 2000. We were already starting to get ready for the playoffs in the World Series. Like, we thought we were going to be that good. And granted, we were good. He made us a lot better, but he didn't get us over the hump because we needed pitching. And that's kind of where I was going with this Texas team. They have the offense, but they need defense. We had the offense. We needed pitching. So that's kind of my scenario along with the Texas Longhorns.
Danny, just a little sidebar here. Did that number 30 ever really look right to you with Ken Griffey in it?
No.
I just couldn't see.
It had to be 24.
It had to be 24. 30 made him look even bigger, too, though. Like he was a bigger guy. And I envisioned him wearing 24. And so when he did go to Cincinnati that year and wore number 30, it just
and then he went to number 3 later in his career, and that made him look even bigger.
Yeah, that's the reason why I didn't wear single digits, by the way. Geoff Schwartz is just going back to this, though. Obviously you got to go out there and prove it on the field. But can you think of anything from either your college years at Oregon or your years in the NFL, whether with the Giants or the Panthers, just a situation where either you draft somebody or you bring in a new coach and you almost feel like you've won, but you hadn't won anything yet?
We almost had the opposite happen at Oregon. My senior year, we brought in Chip Kelly, a no-name from New Hampshire, and I was out that winter and spring because I had back surgery in January, and they brought in Chip Kelly in February to kind of see the program and I think for an interview, and we were at an early morning workout, and I was talking to him, and he was talking about what he does in New Hampshire, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is not going to work good at all. And we ended up hiring him. I was out of spring practice. I didn't really pay attention very much. And then we got to summer camp, and it worked. It worked right away. He's a genius. Mm-hmm. We got a lot better. We had the opposite, right? We hired someone that was unknown, that people probably expected not to take off like it did, and we were good from the start. And it's good, I think, to have your expectations a little bit lower. You're still hungry, though, right? You're hungry.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't expect to win every game. But you get to a point, though. We got to a point that year in 2007 where we knew we beat everybody. Like, as soon as we walked on the field, we knew that we were going to take your lunch. And so you eventually get to that point, but you don't start the season that way.
Right, I get it. Yeah, you don't start the season that way, and I can tell you this, Coach Jim McElwain, head coach over at Florida, they lost yesterday, I mentioned earlier, to Michigan, and they didn't get they didn't go take any lunches. They felt that they got their lunch taken. Here's Jim McElwain yesterday post-game after they lost to Michigan.
Thought we had a good plan. As it turned out, the plan was pretty well foiled by getting physically whooped by big, strong guys. And that was disappointing.
Yeah, physically whooped. When your coach tells you that, you just say, you know what? You just walk to the locker room. Say, yeah, you know what? We'll fight. We'll live to fight another day, which is always going to be something that you got to think about all week long. And I don't see in football too. We have film sessions. I don't see in baseball. You don't have film sessions. Danny, where they show your bad plays. Like just say, hey, you gave up. An 0-2 curve right over the plate. You don't have to go to in front of the meeting room the next day and say, you see, here's Danny right here. Look, 0-2, he wants to throw a curveball right over the plate. Look, this is what happened. So you don't have that part about it, Danny. That's what baseball is different, where they put all of us in a room and they show all the bad plays. Here goes Kirk Morrison.
Never the good plays, just the bad plays.
Never the good plays, only the bad plays. And they rewind it. And I always try to take a bathroom break during that play, but they never let you out of the room. So
that's when they say they ate Kirk's lunch that day, right?
Yeah, they ate my lunch.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Following the waiver wires from the NFL, and you're watching basketball trades, and then all of a sudden on Friday, which was 9/1/17, was the date that I had in my mind because someone had tweeted out earlier when a fan said, hey, I'm asking for a friend, when are you going to sign your contract and report to training camp? Because there was a fantasy draft coming up. And the guy tweeted back 9/1/17. That guy was Le'Veon Bell. And Le'Veon Bell reported to the Pittsburgh Steelers, signed his franchise tender with the Steelers. He took his physical, passed a physical, and now he is officially a Pittsburgh Steeler for 2017. Now, we don't know what's going to happen after that. They can always franchise tag him again come next offseason, but that will be at a price I'm not sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers will be wanting to pay. But that being said, the holdout, or I don't even want to call it I can't call it a holdout because he wasn't under contract. I just said that he officially reported to training camp. He will have a little over, about 10 days as they open the season up on September 10th, I believe, along with the rest of the NFL full slate of games. And here we are sitting here on September 3rd. So he's got about a week. We're a week away for him to get his body ready to be able to carry the load for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I'll start with you, Geoff. Have you dealt with a situation like this where a guy held out and finally, came into the team? And, how do you treat that situation for a guy who you're going to need this season?
I can't recall a time when I was on a team who had that situation. I've obviously played with franchise players, but
yes,
none that held out. I would think that most of his Steeler teammates were all for him holding out to try to get as much money as possible until the point where it affects their season, which was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when it gets closer to week one, and that's when you saw his teammates start texting him, calling him, going on social media, asking him to come in because they realize that it's about to start now. And, it's great that he missed the first 3 weeks of camp, but look, you need to come in for the fourth week and fifth week. And I don't know if it's enough time to get ready in 1 week for a game. I know he's in a position that maybe it's easier to do that, and he's been running and he's been in shape, but there's a different speed between working out and playing the game.
Yes.
And
football
I think he's prone to get injured if he hasn't practiced. And so we'll see how it goes, but I would expect him to be rusty, and then eventually, this is where you get those hamstring pulls, those groin strains, is when you have been practicing football.
Yeah, Danny. See, give me your take on this one, because I like you. We were joking off air, and I wish people could listen to us sometime when we're during a break. And you kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, baseball. We don't know what you're talking about holding out. We don't know what that is in baseball holdouts, but it's a situation where there's a contract dispute. But a guy finally arrives. How do you treat that teammate or a situation like this?"
Well, see, with baseball, with the guaranteed contracts, and you mentioned this during the break too, like you get somebody offers you 6-7 years, you're going to say, okay, no need to hold out. I'm taking it because it's guaranteed. But I think as players, you want your teammates to get as much as they can because of the arbitration process and the free agent process that we have set up for Major League Baseball. It's amazing. So each year you produce, you're absolutely going to get a raise. You keep getting higher and higher. So it's like, get what you can, get all your money, and then we'll see you when spring training starts. But that's the thing. It usually happens before spring training. And
right.
And I'm not like mad at Le'Veon Bell at all.
Right.
You guys are the football players that have had to deal with teammates not showing up. I just don't understand how, and Geoff, you brought it up, like how are you going to get yourself ready in this amount of time? This isn't like you're going to play Little League Pop Warner football or even high school football. This is the NFL. And I know Le'Veon Bell is one of the best running backs in the game, obviously, but he still has to prepare himself, right?
Yeah, he's got to prepare himself, and I think we always have to remember this too. Le'Veon Bell is the president of Le'Veon Bell Enterprises. Okay, he's the president, he's the owner, and he can decide when he wants to report to work, especially when $12 million are at stake, and that's what his contract is for this season. The franchise tag for the running back position, $12 million, and next year if they decide to franchise him again, it will be 20% more than the contract he's got already. So they will want to get a deal done with him possibly at the end of next year. But that being said, Le'Veon Bell is just exercising his right. This is what his right is to sign the contract whenever he pleases to. Now, look, last offseason was a bit different. And the reason why I say that was because Josh Norman, a former Carolina Panther, actually had his franchise tag rescinded, meaning that he thought he was going to make a certain amount. The team said, you know what, we're just not even going to, we're going to take that contract away. We're just going to draft some younger players and move on. And that's what Carolina did. And so Josh Norman ended up signing with Washington, and he moves forward. I bring that up because Le'Veon Bell, all he did was just say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to sit here with my team, and I'll be fine. I'm going to report when I feel like it, but I don't need to be at training camp. You need me come September 10th, okay? And I will be ready. But you do put yourself in harm's way when you haven't been properly prepared. I hate training camp. See, baseball spring training, Danny, I've been there before. I'm a big fan of baseball, so I go to Arizona, and I see the guys living, in their plush, off-season homes, and they drive to the ballpark at 8, and they have a game, and then after the game, they go home and relax and maybe go out
golf.
with the fellas. Yeah,
and if
golf.
You're not pitching that day, you're done by noon.
So spring training in baseball, and I wish you could see my air quotes, but it is totally different. And I think, training camp in the NFL, as much as I hated it, fellas, I knew I needed it. I knew I had to prepare my body. You have to go through the aches and the pains and the bruises to get your body, ready to go for an upcoming season. And so the only scary thing that I have with Le'Veon Bell, I'm not scared. I'm not worried about his teammates. The teammates, look, they're going to love you regardless. They're going to love you. Hey, he's part of us. He's one of our guys. You give him a hug, you move on, and you forget about everything that's happened before because that's just the business side of it. It doesn't, worry about what's going on in the field. Now, what happens with Le'Veon, the injury part, the soft tissue injury, like you mentioned, Jeff, those are the scary things that all of a sudden you start trying to go full speed and the body's telling you, no, you're supposed to have been doing this. I know you've been working on your own, but it's a different kind of shape that's expected for Le'Veon Bell, and that's not the case here, Jeff. So I don't know what happens, but I'm telling you this. If I'm Ben Roethlisberger, I'm happy I got one of my best weapons back.
Oh, you have to be thrilled about it. I mean, he accounts for more offense than anyone in the NFL at that running back position. So I understand, I guess, his desire to be paid like a dual position player. It's never going to happen. But I understand that his desire and want for that. But I'm glad he reported. I like watching him play. Steelers have a good offensive line. They have a good chance to end up winning the AFC possibly if they can beat New England. So I'm glad he's back.
Thanks for listening to the Locker Room Podcast. Make sure to subscribe by clicking the Listen tab on the ESPN app.